Welcome back to the Fantasy Four podcast. I'm Drew Kamihara, joined with Alan Jaw, Jacob Muskie, and Nate Gaynor. And today we will be going over our top 24 running backs in PPR.
All right. So to start it off, to no surprise, we got Christian McCaffrey from the Carolina Panthers. This man is a one-man backfield on his team. He was the top fantasy scorer in 2019. And in 2019 alone, he had 403 touches, with 116 of those being receptions. So he's a great option for PPR. He scored 19 total touchdowns, and he's by far the best player in fantasy for this upcoming year.
At number 2, we have Saquon Barkley. The Giants recently hired Jason Garrett as their offensive coordinator, and we saw what he did with the Cowboys with their run game and the offensive line. And immediately they drafted a position of need with Andrew Thomas, who should be the starting right tackle this year.
At number 3, we have Dalvin Cook. He's a great runner. He's a well-rounded back. The loss of Stephon Diggs should boost his touches because I don't see the addition of Justin Jefferson making an immediate impact. His workload shouldn't change from the previous season, as he was ranked 3rd in most carries inside the 5-yard line, and he ranked 4th in most touchdowns, and he's a very solid RB1.
Zeke comes in tied for number 3. I put him at my number 3. They have a great O-line. They added CeeDee Lamb, so the offense is going to be running on all cylinders. I think he has a lot more upside now with the touchdown potential in the Cowboys offense. But the one question is, are the receiving touches going to be there for Zeke?
At number 5, we have Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara, he's always a top running back. He always gets the catches and the touchdowns. It's just last year there's concern with the snap percentage, with Latavius Murray taking a lot of the carries. So that's why we have him at 5.
Okay, at number 6, we have Derrick Henry, the power back from the Tennessee Titans, who carried them through the playoffs last year. So last year alone in 2019, he had 327 touches, but only 24 of those were receptions for him. So he's not as good of a choice in PPR leagues as he is in normal leagues. He scored 18 total touchdowns, which is amazing. And he averaged 20-plus carries a game, which shows that he's getting the workload that he needs. And he's always a solid pickup for your team in fantasy football.
At number 7, we have Austin Ekeler. With the departure of Melvin Gordon, that leaves 9 open touchdowns from last year. And Austin Ekeler, he gets it done in the receiving game with 92 receptions, and he averaged 10.8 yards per reception last year. And that would be, if he was only a wide receiver, that would make him a high-end wide receiver 2. But since he's also a running back, he gets the rushes and the rushing touchdowns.
Number 8, Nick Chubb. Everyone's saying Kareem Hunt's going to take a ton of the workload, and yes, he may take some of the receiving work, but Nick Chubb's floor is still super high. Last season, he still would have finished as an RB1 with Kareem Hunt there. He was on pace for RB1 numbers, and they added head coach Kevin Stefanski, who was Dalvin Cook's offensive coordinator. They're going to implement the zone run scheme, which plays into Nick Chubb's strengths. And then they added Jack Conklin, and they drafted Jedrick Wills Jr. in the first round. So they're going to bolster up their O-line. He's going to be pretty good this year.
At number 9, we have Josh Jacobs. He had a really good rookie year. I could see him doing better this year if he stays healthy, because obviously he was out for 3 games last season due to a hamstring injury. However, he is kind of capped with his limited role in the pass as a pass catcher. But however, their coach, John Gruden, consistently emphasized that they will increase his role in the passing game, there's a little bit of optimism to it, but overall he's a high RB2 to a low RB1.
At number 10, we have Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones finished with 19 total touchdowns, 16 of those rushing. He finished with over 1,000 rushing yards last year. I do believe he can stay a top 10 running back if he keeps those touchdown numbers up, which might be hard, but with the Packers' limited weapons, he's still a top option in the offense.
At number 11, we have Joe Mixon. He does get very heavy usage and is one of the more talented players in the league, but they are still trying to figure out the O-line in Cincinnati, and kind of unlikely for him to see targets in the passing game with AJ Green coming back from a season-long injury and obviously with the addition of T. Higgins. He's a borderline top 12 running back in my opinion.
Okay, at number 12, we got Kenyan Drake from the Cardinals. In his 8 games last year with the Cardinals, he had 151 touches, which is around 19 per game, close to Derrick Henry's workload. He scored 8 rushing touchdowns with the Cardinals in the 8 games, and he's capable of breaking off the long run, as we've seen against the Seahawks last year. He's a very solid option at running back 2 and could even be considered a running back 1 for this upcoming year.
13, Le'Veon Bell. It's going to be his second year with the Jets. I see improvement here. Last season, most would say he was a bust, but now they drafted Mekhi Becton with their first pick in the draft, who was arguably the best run blocker in the draft. I see good things for Le'Veon Bell this season, and I mean, he's being drafted pretty close to his floor, in my opinion.
At number 14, we have Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette, he did deal with a lot of injuries last year. He still got a lot of carries, but mysteriously he only had 3 rushing touchdowns. And there is some trade concerns, but as long as he's in Jacksonville, he's going to be the workhorse back and get plenty of touches.
15, Miles Sanders. He's playing behind a great O-line. With Jordan Howard gone last season, he was an absolute beast. And his only competition this season is Boston Scott, who at most is going to take some of the receiving work, but he's still the workhorse back, and he's going to get all the touches in the goal line.
All right, at 16, we got David Johnson, who was traded over to Houston for DeAndre Hopkins. He's the obvious starter running back for the Texans, and he has Deshaun Watson at his QB, so you already know the run game will be there with Watson creating in the pass game. The only question is the touches, and I believe he'll be involved in the pass and run game as much as Bill O'Brien incorporates him into that.
At number 17, we have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a rookie coming in from college. Everyone's interested to see what he can do from that transition from college to the NFL. I believe at the beginning of the season, it will be more of a shared workload with Damian Williams, but it's only a matter of time until he becomes more of the featured back in the Chiefs' high-scoring offense.
All right, at 18, we got Chris Carson. The reason he's so low is because he's in a committee with Rashad Penny and now Carlos Hyde and maybe Marshawn if he comes back. You never know. He's got fumble issues and will not get as many touches as he did last year, but he's still a great back, and he's a solid running back 2 option.
At number 19, we have Todd Gurley. He's now on the Falcons. I mean, there's not much competition in the backfield, and it's in a pretty decent offense. However, his durability is always a concern. His knee arthritis, that could limit his touches throughout the entire season, and he's a fringe RB2.
At number 20, we have Melvin Gordon. He will be joining the Denver offense, who looks to be explosive, adding Jerry Jeudy and a lot more weapons. He's sort of in a Nick Chubb type role with Philip Lindsay behind him. So it's just a matter of time before he takes over and gets the majority of the carries.
Devon Singletary comes in at 21. I'm not a fan of Devon Singletary very much. They drafted Zach Moss, and Josh Allen is just a touchdown vulture in the red zone. He scored 9 rushing touchdowns last season, which really limits Singletary's upside. They did get Stephon Diggs, which should open up the run game a bit more, but I'm still just not a big fan. We got to see what he does first. James Conner comes in at 22. They drafted Chase Claypool in the second round. Big Ben is back. They're going to have the offense firing on all cylinders now. I mean, they have a great O-line. I don't see the big concern over James Conner. Sure, he didn't play amazing last year, but part of that was because of injury. If he stays healthy this year, James Conner is going to be a solid RB2 option.
At number 23, we got Raheem Mostert from the 49ers. You know, he was good at the second half of last year and into the playoffs, but from just looking at this list, I feel like the 22 above him are better options, and he's still a solid option at a low running back 2 or great flex option. So that's why we have him at 23.
And at number 24, we have Mark Ingram. He had a pretty good season. However, I don't see him repeating it, and I don't see his volume. His volume's unlikely to rise, especially with the addition of J.K. Dobbins, which, in my opinion, he's now a running back 2 with a low ceiling. And with that, that concludes our rankings for running backs, and we'll come back with another episode of our wide receiver rankings.